We are so grateful that you're here today joining us. I am going to start my introductions of the panelists and the people that you see here. I'm going to start first with Janae Redwood, who is an early school parent of Estelle, a sweet little early school student. And Janae is in human resources. She's an executive with Bank of America, and she was recently featured in Forbes magazine as a member of the Senior Executive Leadership Council, which works to develop Black leaders and influence change through recruiting, advancing diverse talent, as well as community outreach to drive success of her company. And did I get that right, Janae?
You did a terrific job. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Next, I want to introduce Evan Kurtz. Evan, you want to raise your hand? And Evan is the head of our middle school. He oversees everything that happens there. He's a graduate of George Mason University and has his master's in educational leadership from the University of Pittsburgh. And he's been in education for over 20 years, but he's always gravitated towards those middle school age children, and he embraces those unique qualities that they have at the adolescent age. So Evan is here to give us the sort of the final piece of the journey of a Charlotte Prep student. Next, I want to introduce Mimi McKeon. She's the head of our lower school, and she has served Charlotte Prep now for 9 years. She has her BA in elementary education, a minor in mathematics, and a master's in curriculum and instruction from Boston College. Her mindset is that children are, when they're provided with the right learning opportunities, their natural curiosity, innate ability, and desire for respect and order will facilitate the development of their full potential. And then Sharon Vanilla, she leads she's our head of the early school, and she has the BS in elementary education from Miami University, early childhood administration, and Montessori early childhood credentials. And Sharon has been in education for 25 years, with 15 of those being here at Charlotte Prep. And she believes in meeting each child where they are, giving them the tools and the guidance to set their own path for learning. And she's a phenomenal asset to that early school, and someone that you guys will certainly get to know. Sharina Mundodi is our Director of Community Life. And Sharina, in her role, she principally focuses on diversity and equity at Charlotte Prep. She's working with constituents across the One Prep community to build better connections, improve cultural competency and inclusivity, and lean on our 4 pillars heavily and our mission to guide empathy, outreach, service, academics, and leadership. Her goal is really to prepare our community members to face challenges and create an impact in a meaningful and equitable ways. And then next are Sahir Kahana. And Sahir works with me in the admissions office. She has her BA in economics and from the University of Virginia, and an MBA in marketing and strategic management from the University of Pennsylvania, the Wharton School. But she serves as the Associate Director of Admissions and also in communication. And she really enjoys working with families and helping assist you all through the admissions process at Prep. She currently has an 8th grader. She has one daughter that is in high school now that came all the way through our program and graduated and is now off in a high school. And then her youngest is an 8th grader going through the high school placement process. So she's happy to talk to you about the benefits of pre-K through 8th grade model. And then finally, I want to Chris Marblow. He is our head of school, and he's starting his 18th year as a pre-K through 8th grade head of school. And this is his first year at Charlotte Prep. And we're very happy to have him here. And he is happy to be here in the Charlotte Prep community and part of a community where we can truly ensure that each child is known, loved, and challenged. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Chris. He has a few remarks, and then after that, we'll have a little video.
Thank you, Vicki, and welcome everyone. We're so glad to be gathered virtually this morning. We wish we could be in person, but we can't, so this is the next best thing. And as Vicki said, I've spent most of my career working in pre-K through 8th grade schools, and I've done so because I think they are the best structures to give children what they need to thrive not only in school, but also in high school and in life beyond high school. Because whether you begin with us as a 2-year-old or leave with us as a very competent, capable 14-year-old, that continuum from 2 to 14 is childhood. And we are a school that is devoted solely to children and what they need. And essentially, what children need is a school structure that is designed only for them. So everything from the types of teachers that we hire, to the curriculum that we teach, to the design of our facilities, is meant to give children the best environment possible so that they can thrive as students and as people. We like to say that it's very important for children to be known, challenged, and loved, and we live those values each and every day, in large part because we are a pre-K through 8th grade school. So we're thrilled that you're taking a look at us. We're one of the few pre-K 8 schools in the region. We think we've got something very special here, and this is just an introduction to us. We hope you like what you see, and we're going to move that introduction to a video which will give you a better kind of view of what we do day to day. So this is my 18th year as a head of school in a pre-K through 8th grade school, and I've always been attracted to that structure because I think it serves children best. And what I mean by that is that everything we do, from the way our school is designed to the types of teachers we hire, is designed to give children what they need when they need it. For example, 2 of the most important things that we balance in a pre-K through 8 school is academic challenge and nurturing support. And what I mean by nurturing support is that degree of warmth and love and being known and valued that is so critical for children. Without that, they will not thrive. And by academic support, I mean making sure the program is interesting, relevant, and meaningful to their lives now and in the future. And when you balance those 2 things, children take off and thrive. If you get that balance wrong, 2 things happen. The first is that you're too warm and nurturing without enough challenge. In that case, you leave learning on the table. In the second case, if you're not nurturing enough and you're just focused solely on challenge and rigor, students become stressed, and that's a terrible outcome because when you're stressed, you're not open to learning. What we like to do is make sure that that balance between nurturing support and a challenging program is struck for each and every child. And because we're a small school with a low student-teacher ratio, we can do that. One of the nice outcomes of our school is that not only are students prepared for entry into the best high schools, public schools, independent schools, boarding schools, but they also are super nice people. And that outcome, making sure we have great students connected to great people, is one of the hallmarks of the Charlotte Prep experience.
Hi there, welcome to the Montessori Early School here at Charlotte Prep. Love to show you around a Montessori classroom. This is a classroom that we call a primary age group, which is a 3-year age span that lasts from ages 3 through 6. And the child could complete the 3-year cycle and be finished with kindergarten by the time they leave here and be ready to move on to 1st grade. The cornerstone of the Montessori environment is the practical life area. This is everything that involves the child's care of themselves, care of the environment, their development of independence, their development of organization, fine motor control, and being able to concentrate and develop that sense of getting something out, working with it, and putting it away. So everything the children do in here help them prepare for future academic work by getting them able to center and concentrate long enough to complete that cycle. Many of the practical life lessons focus on concentration and on fine motor skill. This is a simple spooning activity. It's a left to right transfer, and the child is invited to have a lesson on this, which is a demonstration by the teacher, and then they will be able to choose this material and work with it for as long as they like, while they're enjoying the purpose of the material until they're satisfied. Montessori classroom is the sensorial area. This area involves all the things that have to do with the child's senses, because Montessori believed if you refine the child's senses, it opens them up to be able to explore their environment and then therefore intake all the sensory input that they can get from the environment. So sensorial activities in the Montessori classroom will help the child organize. They will do grading, sorting, classifying, and work with all their different 5 senses. They're going to have visual, they explore color, shape, size, texture, smell, and even sometimes taste. The Montessori language area is really built into the whole classroom, but we do have a special area of the classroom that is dedicated to the acquisition of language. We start, of course, with a lot of oral language and the connection between the sounds that the letters make and then their symbols. So one of the primary ways that we do this is through the use of a sandpaper letter lesson, which is what we call a 3-period lesson, in which we introduce the letter sound and then we ask the child to repeat and practice the letter sound, and then we ask the child to repeat it back to us. We can do this type of a 3-period lesson with just about anything in the classroom, but we specifically use it very often to learn the letter sounds and connect them to their symbols. Once the child has mastered the letter sound and symbol connection, we open them up to composing words. So they use movable alphabet letters with those letter sounds to compose short phonetic words to start. And eventually this composition of words is going to lead them into discovering spelling patterns and writing words creatively, telling stories, and eventually along the way, along with their practical life work that they've been doing, they will be able to use a pencil. We also have lots of different ways of introducing the children to handwriting and pencils. The sensorial area naturally lends itself to the discovery of math concepts. Many of the sensorial materials are set up in groups of 10, which is an ideal way to start understanding the base 10 of the math system that we have. And then there are materials that directly correspond. For example, in the sensorial area, there are the long rods, which are designed to grade things by length. But over here in the math area, then these directly correspond to counting rods, which are sectioned off so that the children can start to identify the quantity of the material. Maria Montessori was a true citizen of the world. She lived in various countries around the world and brought her method of education across different continents. And so it's an important facet of the Montessori classroom that we study the world, its geography and cultures, and that's an integral part of our classrooms. The children start out by understanding where the land and water is on the globe, and then corresponding those to the flat maps. And we have a series of puzzle maps, the first one being the world map, in which the children start to identify the names of the continents, and then throughout their time in the classroom have a chance to explore the different continents of the world with different puzzles and different cultural items and celebrations. Science is woven throughout the curriculum as well, and the classrooms rotate through various themes. They might work with anything from color mixing, magnetism, and then definitely exploring the natural world. So we're constantly observing nature outside our window. We have gardens that the children get to explore and utilize, and then we're learning things like parts of different kinds of animals or animal classification, parts of a leaf, life cycles, and they explore using things like puzzles, drawings, booklets, and that 3-period lesson that I mentioned before in language.
The day I came to look at Charlotte Prep, I flew from Toronto in the morning. It was a snow day. Charlotte Prep was closed. And Vicky in admissions actually came in and opened the school just to let me have a look around. When I looked in early school in the Montessori classrooms, I just knew straight away that that was the perfect place for them to go. The classrooms are such a lovely size, everything was so familiar for them, and it was just such a lovely atmosphere. So we came back 2 weeks later, brought the children over, they came and met some of the teachers, did some work in the classrooms, had a great time, and from then our hearts were set on prep really, so we were delighted to find out that they got places, and 2 years later we're still delighted.
So welcome back. And I thought we would kick off the conversation first with just some comments from our division heads so that they can let you guys know a little bit about the path of a prep student. So I'm going to turn it over to Sharon Vanilla. And Sharon, make sure your mic is unmuted.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm happy to share a little bit about our Montessori Early School and our path through 8th grade. The children can start here as early as age 2, and we have 2 classrooms for children ages 2 to 3, and that's called our pre-primary classroom. And those classrooms are focused on helping those toddler children move from babyhood to early childhood. They focus on independence, vocabulary development, socialization, and refining their gross motor skills and large motor skills, and becoming a classroom community. After that first year, they're ready to transition into the primary cycle, which is a 3-year cycle. The children can actually complete kindergarten in that group before transitioning to lower school for 1st grade. And we do also have an option for kindergarten in the lower school. So we have a couple different options here. The 3-year cycle helps the children develop concentration, independence, foundation for future academics, and builds that classroom community. Through the course of going through those 3 years of the cycle, they develop leadership ability. They have that interaction between the different age groups that allows for kind of a sibling and community spirit. The older ones are able to teach the younger ones look up to the older ones. And it's a great relationship that they build over those 3 years. By the time they're ready, in a normal year, we would have those kindergarten children and those other children interacting with the larger school a lot more with visiting the other buildings, having buddies, joining the other kindergartners for different activities. And by the time they're ready to move over to the lower school, they have a wonderful sense of self, sense of confidence, and a great academic foundation so that they're ready to join their peers in the lower school and continue on from there. I've had children of my own who have come through here and gone all the way through 8th grade, and children that I've taught have gone all the way through 8th grade, and I've loved watching them grow up, and so proud to see them as they become middle schoolers and are ready to go out into the world fully prepared.
Mimi, I think we need to hear from you next about the transition into lower school.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. It's great to have you all here. As Sharon mentioned, students come to our lower school from the early school. We use that solid foundation of knowledge, skill, and understanding that they have established as a solid, foundation for learning, as a springboard for continued development in the lower school years. As Sharon mentioned, our lower school begins in kindergarten and serves students all the way up through 4th grade. We have 2 homerooms per grade level, so 2 kindergarten classes, 2 1st grade classes, etc. And we have, we aim to have about 15 students per class. Our kindergarten and 1st grade classrooms have teacher assistants as well as lead teachers. And then as our students gain more independence in 2nd through 4th grade, we just have lead teachers in there. During the lower school years, our students are certainly challenged to develop age-appropriate academic skills, become independent thinkers and doers, and really advocate for their own needs and interests. The curricula that our teachers employ every day, and by establishing and nurturing classroom environment, our students are really able to develop to their fullest potential. Although we are a more traditional model of teaching and learning here in the lower school, we use what's called a workshop model, which really blends nicely with our students coming from the early school, their foundation in the Montessori years. Teachers deliver a really aid and developmentally appropriate mini lesson, which is very targeted, but yet applicable to all of the learners. And then students go off and practice, refine, apply the skills that they are working on their own learning journey. Our teachers work with students. They do ongoing assessment so they can identify each student's opportunities for growth. Our students work independently. They work in partnerships in small groups and really can learn from one another. During those small group or conferring opportunities, the teachers are able to target their instruction and really fuel individual learning potential. Our students, on top of the great academic foundation that they get in the lower school, really develop confidence. They develop self-efficacy and grit, which are strong leadership traits, and they're really developed through daily character building work that our teachers do. And it really will support students as they continue on to our middle school, which begins in 5th grade and well beyond that, and will really serve them to develop a love for learning for their entire life.
And Evan, I think we're ready to hear about the middle school, the crown.
Yes, thank you very much, Mimi. That was an excellent segue. Our middle school here at Charlotte Prep is grades 5 through 8. And what we're always trying to do here in our middle school is to build community. Part of that community gets built. We have classes that loop. Our teachers teach generally both 5th and 6th graders, as well as 7th and 8th graders. So over those 2 years, really strong teacher-student relationships are developed so that middle schoolers can learn how to learn. A huge part of middle school is figuring out who you are as a learner, so you can take those skills and apply them to our academic course of study. Our core classes that we have are English and math and science and social studies, as well as Spanish. Everyone in our middle school is a Spanish student, and they go off and they are ready to be Spanish speakers. Not only are they scholars, but everyone in Charlotte Prep's middle school does an art. Everyone takes drama, so we want them to be comfortable and curious, and everyone does a music of some kind, whether their instrument is a band instrument or their instrument is their voice in our chorus. Really what we're trying to develop through our middle school program are the scholars and athletes and artists and leaders that they can be, so they can go off and succeed mightily at whatever high school they choose. Some of our leadership program happens through, a great example would be on our athletic teams. We open up our athletic teams to be grades 5 through 8. Now, this is different from a lot of our schools where you're competing with only peers of your own age. But through this expanded model, not only are we getting students to work with one another, but you see those 7th and 8th grade older students mentoring and shepherding those younger students. This also happens on our stages where our productions, musicals, and stage plays are also, lots of grades. So you get these older students with more experience who are really working with the younger students, and they're really developing. And it shows how much they care about prep and the program, because they want to see these students succeed as they go off and they graduate. They come back and they watch the games. They come back and they watch the productions. Leadership is also shown in community building through our buddy program. All middle school students are connected through lower school students, and they will go and meet their buddies. For instance, 8th graders will have a buddy who is in the 4th grade. And when things are more open, they will go and spend time with them. They'll read with them. They'll do service projects with them. It's a way to make our Charlotte Prep community even smaller. One of the neat things is you'll see lower school students, when they see middle school students walk across, so they will say to their lower school peers, "There's my buddy." And then they get a wave and a big smile, and it's fantastic. Our leadership is also developed through classes that are really called leadership, starting in 7th grade and working all the way through 8th grade. We ask students to explore what makes leadership, what constitutes leadership, and where they see themselves in that leadership continuum. It works along through our high school process, where our 8th grade students in leadership class are working with our head of school, Chris Marblow, to sort through the high school process. As our graduates are going to go, as we've said, to any number of schools, the key there is to finding out what is that best fit school. There are so many schools to choose from, whether it's another independent school, a public school, a boarding school, and we want students to really expand their horizons. And this is where the learning how to learn and learning how to advocate really comes through and really culminates. As students are exploring what schools to potentially attend, they know the questions to ask. They know what they're looking for in that school, and they are a really active part of that choice process. And also, we continually hear back from all of our alumni, when they get there, they are not only super prepared academically, but they're prepared to thrive in whatever environment hits them. They know that they have a confidence to try out for a team or to try out for a production. They know that they have the confidence to talk to an adult if they have a question. They know that what they've learned at Charlotte Prep is serving them well when they go off to whatever high school they end up choose and fitting in. The thing that we get back also often is, wow, prep really prepared me to succeed and keep on going when I got to high school. So we can't get any higher praise than that.
Thank you, Evan. So yes, that is the prep effect, and what the effect that it has on the students that we serve. Next, I'd like to just have Sharina Mendoti talk to us a little bit about her role as the Director of Community Life.
Hi, everyone. As Vicki alluded to earlier, my title is Director of Community Life, and so you might be wondering what that is about. And my role is focused on helping all of us here at Charlotte Prep, in our Charlotte Prep family, really be our best selves on and off campus, to be representative, really, of how our world really looks and feels. To focus on including others and promoting diversity, and really to make sure that we all have equal and fair opportunities to pursue the things that we love to do and the things that we love to learn. So we refer to this as diversity, equity, and inclusion here. The connection to early school is really a natural one. Maria Montessori was very focused on establishing peace through the work of education. And one of the wonderful things about selecting an early school that helps children thrive in a peaceful and welcoming environment is that as they progress through the pre-K-8 school, they really face opportunities to use that foundational knowledge as they encounter more diversity and seek to define their own identities here at school and in their greater communities. So embracing DEI really actually begins in early school. Charlotte Prep has a student body that represents many different backgrounds and cultures, languages and learning approaches, perspectives and spirits. And so we're really all working continually to try and affirm those identities and learn from each other. And while we do celebrate cultures and history here, DEI really goes much deeper. The early school experience helps sort of bake in the DNA of diversity, equity, and inclusion, because our mission, as has been stated by my colleagues, is really to help prepare our community for what lies beyond these halls. And as your children grow and mature here at Charlotte Prep, we really focus on encouraging them to take ownership of their future through the leadership, all the opportunities that Evan spoke about, and through creativity, and most importantly, through empathy. So some examples that we work across our divisions to roll out materials and lessons related to cultural competency. We also try to foster dialogue in our adult community to do the same. That includes our families. So as the children progress here, they'll have opportunities to engage in service, as Evan mentioned, also in middle school, and connect with their larger communities. And we really want to give opportunities to our students to have a seat at the table and ultimately a voice here on campus. So that whole path just really reinforces that pursuit of equity in terms of resources and opportunity and experience here. And ultimately, it really just helps to create a really truly inclusive community, not just in our classrooms, but also among our Charlotte Prep families and partners. And really, being known and loved and challenged here is a very large effort. And so we really look to our entire One Prep family to be part of that journey.
Thank you, Sharina. All right, and then I'd like to have Janae share a little bit about her experience here and Estelle's experience here in the early school, and just what it's like. What's it like to be a parent and part of the community for you, but also what are your observations in regards to Estelle's learning and growth here?
Yeah, so thank you. I'm so glad to be here this morning and talk about my experience as an early school parent. So this is our second year at Charlotte Prep, and we have enjoyed it tremendously. But more importantly, our 5-year-old daughter has really flourished. And I really mean that from an academic perspective, but she's also happy and confident and proud to be a Charlotte Prep Tiger. Like at 5 years old, she's extremely proud of her school community. She was just telling her cousin on the phone that she goes to Charlotte Prep, and she was talking all about school. And, because the school means so much to her, it of course is special to our entire family. And so Estella attended church preschools, but we were really looking for something more for her that would challenge her bright little mind in a place that we could stay long-term as a family. And that's really what brought us to Charlotte Prep. And so from our first visit, we could really feel the sense of community and see the focus on the children and the academic preparedness. And also, it was really apparent that the intimate size was a big advantage in our mind. And so if your family is anything like mine, perhaps Montessori is new or different from what you've experienced. And I can just say that the early school program is phenomenal. I mean, really could go on, but for the purposes of today, I think I'll just talk about some of the things that have really stood out to us and that we see as benefits. First is the mixed age classrooms. So I didn't truly understand the benefit of that until I saw Estella go through her first year last year. So the younger children, they grow their confidence, they look up to the older students, and then the older students mentor. And last year, our daughter was younger, and towards the end of the school year, she had a goal to be the mentor, to be the TK leader, and she was really striving for something. And I thought that was great that she had a goal for her little self at 4 years old to be a TK leader. The second thing is you saw it in the video, and it's great because I hadn't seen that video before. And it's exactly what it's like to be in those classrooms, but the materials are really so clever. Like they drive this deeper understanding of the concepts that the teachers are teaching. And you'll start to see it all come together for your child just through normal interactions with them, that they can say that, yeah, the number 1 is smaller than 10, but they could visually see that 10 is larger than the number 1. And they can tell you about that and really tell you about a concept. So I've really loved that part. The third thing is, I think, the social, emotional, and problem-solving skills. And I guess that's probably more like 3 things. But I do see them as interconnected. Like our daughter, she can share how someone has hurt her feelings, why the other child could have made a different choice. She can talk about asking someone for empathy, to ask that other child to put themselves in her shoes and how it would make them feel. You know, she knows right from wrong, and she encourages others to make the right choices and to be kind. And I know all this because this is what happens on the playground, which is like very important social interaction for a 4 and 5 year old. And then the last benefit, I guess I would say, is the personal relationship that the teachers have with the children. So Estella's had the same teacher this year that she had last year, and her teacher knows Estella. She knows her learning style. She can tailor the lesson to her needs, and she knows like when she's ready to be challenged for more. And so last year, you know, at 4 years old, she was reading and doing basic addition and subtraction, and it was just incredible to see how much she had learned and that her teachers saw that she was ready to learn those new skills. And so I just have really been beyond pleased with our experience and how my daughter has experienced school for this first time. And the last thing I guess I would say, Vicki, and to everyone joining us today, is I would really probably be remiss if I didn't mention the overall community. So it's easy to get to know other families, to know the faculty. You can be involved in whatever way feels comfortable for you. There really is a place for everyone. And so not only will your child be known and loved, but I feel like your family will be too.
Thank you, Janae. I really appreciate those kind words. I know sort of the big elephant in the globe right now is the pandemic. And so I'd like to ask Chris, our head of school, to talk a little bit about how Charlotte Prep has responded and pivoted during this time, and then how he sees us moving forward as a school community. So Chris?
Thanks, Vicki. Well, we have a crisis response team that has created our return to campus plan. And I'm very happy to report that we were able to bring all of our students back to campus on day 1, while also providing an option for families who wanted their students to learn from home. We're calling that Prep at Home. And to date, we've had no cases of COVID-19 on campus. I think that's both due to planning and some luck, quite frankly. But we do meet once a week as a crisis team to ascertain what's working and what needs to be modified. And our goal is to get back to as much normalcy as we can. Right now, our students are in pods and teachers move to students. All students are wearing masks. We do temperature checks every morning, and those bedrock principles have really served us very well. But when we can modify our protocols, we will. And we will only do so when we think it's in the best interest of the safety and health of our school.
Okay, thank you. So I guess now if there are other questions specific to individual panelists that the attendees have, we're happy to respond to some of those. I think Sahir is checking those and will perhaps field a few of those for us. Or
yeah, so we had opened this up for questions beforehand as part of our reminder email. So we got some questions that that we received over the last couple of days that I think are common for everyone. So I think let's start with those. But one question was to talk a little bit more about the application process, specifically for the early school and how that works. So I'll leave that to you, Vicki.
Sure.
Sharon, if you want to talk a little about that as well and how that's going to look for the kids when they're in the classroom or virtual, just to give a little bit of context for that.
So the admissions process for the early school is really pretty simple. If you decide that you would like to apply for your student, our application is online. You just visit our website at charlotteprep.org, go to the admissions tab and click apply online. Fill out some information about your family and your student, and then submit that application. There is a $90 application fee at the time of submission. We are encouraging families to, if you know that you want to apply to Charlotte Prep, to go ahead and do the application sooner rather than later. The official deadline is January 15th, but largely because of the demand in that program and also because of the pandemic, we would like to know sooner rather than later, who we have to sort of help through the admissions process. Typically for those little early school children, we host a meet and greet visit. And that has typically been where we invite the children on campus and they have an opportunity to spend a little time with a teacher and use some of the Montessori manipulatives, and then we're there to observe and see how the child reacts and interacts with their environment. We are not 100% sure if we will be able to do those in-person visits yet. That's our hope, that we would be able to do those, or at least perhaps do those one-on-one. If we are not able to do those, we will do them virtually, and we have done those. We did do some of those virtually last spring. So it is possible. While it's not the preference, it is possible, and we will do what we feel is the safest thing, when the time comes. Typically, we try to schedule those in January and early February. We may begin with some of those in December, even maybe as early as November, again, with the thought that, while things are pretty good, at least here in our school community, it might be a good time to start, getting those meet and greets accomplished. And then just to talk a little bit about, once we've gotten that visit, our admissions team or committee meets and reviews applications and notes about the visit. And then we make a formal offer to families at the end of February. It's actually on Friday, February the 26th. It's by email at around 4 o'clock. And then families have until the following Friday, which is March the 5th, around noon, to let us know if they're going to take that space. And they confirm that by completing the enrollment paperwork and submitting a non-refundable down payment. And then once that's completed, then you would have your space secured for the following school year. And our enrollment contracts start, the beginning of the school year in August and run through either the end of the school year, which would be late May, or you could also choose to do a year-round contract, which would include the summertime. So there's several options for you to choose from when you enroll into the early school, depending on your needs of your student, your family, and just your personal preference. So, Sharon?
Yes, thanks, Vicki. So when the children visit, whether it's in person or virtually, the teachers are trying to get a sense for where your child is, what experiences they've had, what are their interests, where are they, verbally, and just try to help to get to know them just a little bit, so that again, when they start, that we can meet them where they are. Oftentimes, if we're able to, we'll have several teachers visit with the child at the same time, especially with the older children, so that different perspectives can help to just see that child and get to know them. And that way, also, when the child starts, they have a variety of familiar faces to look towards when they come into school. When we start the school year in August, we have what's called a phase-in period. And this phase-in lasts for a few days right before the beginning of school in August. And the first day is kind of a meet and greet day, and it's a very short visit. The parents come with the children. In person, it's usually 15 minutes to a half an hour, and that's an opportunity to see the classroom in small groups with the children and the teachers. The second day is usually about the same length of time, a shorter period of time. This time, the parents are away from the children. In normal years, we'll have usually an orientation type of thing. Again, small groups and just an introduction to the classroom. The third day, the time is expanded a little bit. Again, they're independent from the parents, and the children have a longer time and a slightly larger group of children together. And then by the fourth day, which is usually a Thursday of that week, the families or the children are ready to start their regular day. When you are selecting enrollment, just to know, the pre-primary and primary, which is the first year of the primary cycle, they have an 8 to 12 schedule. And there are options for extended care. 2:30 pickup, for example, if they have a sibling in the lower school, oftentimes that's an option, or extended day, which goes all the way till the end of the day at about 6 o'clock. And then TK, which is the second year of the cycle, their program day is from 8 to 2:30. And if they're in the Montessori kindergarten, their program is from 8 to 3. And again, those both have extended day options. And so those are some of the things that pertain to admissions for early school.
Sharon, we have a question about the class sizes in the early school, so maybe you could talk to that a little bit for pre-primary and the primary cycle.
Sure. Pre-primary classrooms have up to 12 children, and they have 2 teachers at all times. And our extended day teachers join the classrooms midday and lead the children through the end of the day. In our primary classrooms, those are usually a little bit larger. This year is a little different, so I'll talk about the typical year when we have up to 20 to 22 students and always a full-time assistant. Our teachers are all Montessori certified, and our assistant teachers, some of them are Montessori certified or have experience with early childhood education. And then again, we have extended day teachers that come in midday. This year, our children are in their individual pods, so all of the extended day teachers join their classroom and remain with that group. The children don't mix groups. In an ordinary year, we would mix some of the classrooms together at the end of the day for extended day class. And of course, this year, the students are distanced at 6 feet apart, which is a little different for a Montessori classroom. So in a typical year, they're free, they kind of free range move through the classrooms. This year, they're kind of separated. So we have fewer children in the classrooms this year, but typically we can have up to 22 comfortably, and which is nice to have a nice interplay between the different age groups within that 3-year cycle.
And that number is pretty typical for many Montessori schools. Will want even up to 30 students in a classroom. Our board just decisioned that they want to be a little bit more in line with the rest of our school. So while 22 children in an early school classroom might seem like a lot of students, you have to sort of recognize a couple of things going on. It is Montessori, they're mixed age, they are working in their independent work cycle. It's very different from a daycare environment. And then I think a really critical point, which Sharon mentioned, is that all of our Montessori lead teachers are Montessori certified. So that's a pretty rigorous process that they go through to get that certification. And these teachers are professionals. So, you know, they know what it means to be able to observe the child, follow the child, and to, you know, maintain order in that Montessori classroom space. So you're getting a high level professional individual whose calling is teaching, that is working with those very young children, which is somewhat different from, you know, some of the other options that might be available out there.
I had another question from somebody who RSVP'd, and that was just asking if it's possible for them to take a closer look at the Montessori classrooms in action. So Vicki, maybe you can talk to that a little bit.
Yes, you know, we do have on our website, there is a virtual tour video where you can see what we sort of used to look like. Right now, I'm trying to schedule most of the early school tours are after hours, like around 4 o'clock, and doing those one-on-one. And primarily because I think it's important for families to be able to get into the classroom and see the materials. We would probably do a limited number of tours during the day. I think we could probably make that happen so that you could see children in the classroom. We are just not going to allow families, you know, access into the classroom while the children are here on our campus. So just reach out to us in the admissions office. We'll be happy to schedule something that works for your, you know, for your calendar and get you on campus.
Thank you. And then there's one more just talking about, again, I think you addressed this a little bit, but just talking about the transition from the early school into the lower school and what elements of the Montessori, if any, are retained, and how do the kids adjust and get used to that transition as they move on?
Sure. One of the things that, you know, that's ongoing is just that preparation in general. The development of the child's ability to concentrate on their materials, concentrate on their work cycle. And that means to be able to get something out, to make a choice from a variety of choices, to work with it purposefully, and to be able to return it to where they found it and then make another selection. The teachers are guiding those choices and helping to point the children in the direction so that they always have a well-rounded selection of materials to choose from, and they're always continuing through the sequence of skills as they go. So by the time they're finished with kindergarten, they've started reading, they've started to put pencil to paper. They have a nice solid understanding of numbers and number sense. And so we do a lot of things, again, in a typical year. This is a different kind of year, but typically we would have our kindergarten students interact with the kindergartners from the lower school. So they would go to lunch and to recess and to buddies and to different activities, music and drama with those other kindergartners. Now, we don't always do every activity with them because part of the Montessori is that open-ended work cycle. So they do have that time in their classroom and the fewer transitions, and that's one of the differences between the Montessori and the traditional kindergarten. Now, we say traditional kindergarten, but the lower school kindergarten really in the first grade aren't super traditional. I mean, the difference is that their subject areas are organized in blocks of time, but within those blocks of time, there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of small group and individual interaction, and then, like Mimi McKeon mentioned, they have the workshop model. So they're interacting, discussing, working together, and the teachers are then individually assessing each child, just similar to the way that they've been used to in Montessori.
Yeah, I would agree with everything that Sharon has just mentioned. Our workshop model, although it's in a traditional setting where we have the reading or literacy time and then math time versus kind of an open work cycle, the students really transition nicely. So whether they join us during the kindergarten year or during the first grade year, There's an adjustment period for all students, and our Montessori students adjust in the same time frame as students coming either from other preschools or moving up from kindergarten to first grade that have already been in our lower school. Again, that workshop model where it has a short targeted mini lesson, that's kind of like the lesson that a child might receive in the early school, based on their need. It's just being delivered to a larger group of students at once. And then when they go off during that independent work time, there's lots of choice and opportunity to direct their own learning during those times. So the teachers, will say, there's sometimes center choices open, or there's different game choices during math time. And so students are choosing what is best fit for them. They also have opportunities to work on their own to practice and refine skills like they do in the Montessori, but they also have opportunities to work with peers and either learn from their peers, like in the Montessori classroom, or be that mentor to another student. So there's a lot of similarities despite kind of hearing, Montessori versus traditional.
Thank you. Sahir, were there any other that we have time to, we're about closing in on our hour, so we may have to respond to other questions individually.
Yeah, I think you got all the big, more common to all questions. So we'll connect with you all offline if we did not get to your question. Please feel free to reach out to us on email as well. It's admissions@charlotteprep.org, and we'll make sure we get back to you as soon as possible.
Yeah, and I do just want to remind everyone that our website contains a lot of information. If you haven't had the chance to take a look at our website, please visit that. And when Chris was talking about our response to the pandemic, there's a lot of information about our pandemic response, our return to campus plan. There's a whole page on what we've done in terms of COVID-19. So I invite you to visit our website and review that for more information. But we are truly so, I want to thank our panelists today for being here and sharing, and thank you attendees for coming and being a part of this hour. And we are really grateful that you spent the time with us. We do hope you're going to apply. We look forward to meeting you and hopefully welcoming your little people here into our Charlotte Prep community. So look forward to connecting with you offline. Have a great day. Take care.